So since the beginning of time in Helldivers 2, people have been unsatisfied with the state of heavy armor. The main complaint is that heavy armor makes you slower and gives less stamina regen in a game that has a lot of running. Having low stamina also makes aiming harder, if you didn't know. The upsides to heavy armor, of course, is more armor, and I swear the devs changed it either to have less ragdoll, less recoil, and or less flinching when hit. I couldn't find any posts or anything about this for some reason, and Arrowhead doesn't like showing stats in games, so there you go. Either way, with all those possible upsides it might have, people still tend to not pick it over medium or light armor. I'd like to start by proposing Arrowhead, or I don't know, Disco Garage or something, should simply reduce the speed and stamina debuff for heavy armor. Also, if it doesn't already have a recoil reduction, then it should also get that. That's really all you're gonna need, but more changes would be nice. If they really want to make heavy armor great, they should have the elemental resistance increased to 100% for heavy armor. That way you have a very good reason to pick heavy armor if you want certain builds. However, I'm pretty sure that won't happen, so I'm going to tell you the scenarios you should be using heavy armor and how to make it more viable even in areas where it's weak. First up, where should you use heavy armor? The best missions for heavy armor are, of course, the 20-minute defense mission, the 15-minute rapid acquisition platinum missions, the 40-minute spread democracy flag missions, and the 15-minute eradicate mission. It's also probably better on bots. You could maybe argue that the commando missions are good with heavy armor since you're going to be moving at a slower pace overall. Unfortunately though, there's no redacted heavy armor set in the game, but I'm sure you see the pattern here. Missions that have smaller maps and a lot of enemies is where the heavy armor particularly performs better than medium or light armor more times than not. Personally, I'm a light armor user as I find the added movement speed and stamina regen to be far superior to more armor, since A, we have a timer on the mission, and B, you can avoid a lot of extra damage just by moving faster, especially if your pal is in heavy armor and you just leave him in the dust, then he's way back there like distracting the horde behind you. Also, medium armor practically takes the same amount of hits to die in compared to light armor, so in my mind you're kind of just slowed down for little to no reason. All that aside, if you love your heavy armor so much that you want to take it everywhere and even shower with it on, then here are some ways to make it work quite well, although I can't guarantee the shower part. First off, as to why I say the bots are better is because they're ranged and you can kind of just sit behind cover, but the main issue with the other two factions is that they're going to be constantly pushing you out of cover, meaning we need to bring gear to compensate. So I would recommend the warp pack even if you're in light armor, to be honest. There's the jump pack, of course. The hover pack can also help in different ways by allowing you to sit up in the air and lay down some firepower. This can help alleviate the annoyance of whatever's chasing you down. You can also use these items to get over or through obstacles that would have been a death sentence for a heavy player. For example, you're in a city fighting squids and you run into an alley with a wall at the end. With that army of flesh bobs, overseers, voteless, you can't just run back out, so you just warp or jump over the wall and avoid the threat entirely. You could even use the hover pack to land on buildings or rocks. That will make the traits of heavy armor more effective than harmful. There's of course the stamina booster, the stim booster, dead sprint, and muscle enhancement boosters that all will have a pretty big help with your mobility. The best way to move around in heavy armor though is going to be with the FRV. If you can manage to not flip it all the time, you can manually change the gears to allow yourself to move slower but be more stable while driving, if that helps. Then of course you could use mech suits or the Bastion tank. Heavy armor will benefit a lot more from any vehicle you choose compared to the other two variants. Oh yeah, there's also the new Siege Breaker armor passive, but I'm sorry, it's kind of trash in my opinion. I mean, like, you can try it if you want. Alternatively, if you want to stand your ground and be an immovable object, kind of like your mom, you can bring things like the shield pack, supply pack, which also will help you with the low stamina problem and is always an S tier pick. You can bring the big shield bubble or the shield grenades. Make sure your armor passive is also matching the damage type of your enemies. For example, explosion resistance is generally good for bots. If you're going full into the stationary play, you could bring the maxi gun or some emplacements you can man yourself. The cookout is fantastic at holding a wave of enemies back if you reload it while shooting. Blitzer is also pretty okay at this job. Having heavy armor makes you, of course, take less damage, right? Well, that also means you do less to yourself, too. So I would recommend niching into a certain damage type, like explosive, fire, gas, or arc damage. That way, you can dish out as much damage as you want while outlasting any of your enemies. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here, okay? But you have to not tell the devs, okay? Don't tell Disco Garage anything about this. If you take heavy armor and the vitality enhancement booster, you will become 100% immune to gas damage. Also, this glitch has been here since basically the beginning of time. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was here at least back in Oshu'une days. I have no clue how long it's been here. But seriously, it's pretty fun to play like the flag mission or the platinum missions and just have gas all over the place while the enemies don't know where you are and they just kind of slowly die off. This bug honestly shows us what we could have if Arrowhead would just give us 100% resistance to an element instead of like 80% or 75%. And I mean, why is it that our suits are so bad that they can't even filter out the gas we use? Like, where's the realism here? Imagine if in real life we had a chemical weapon and the users of this weapon wore suits with tears in them. That's basically what we're working with here. We got like the backroom hand-me-downs. Anyhow, building into a niche damage type and resistance is great even without 100% resistance. But I really think heavy armor should definitely get that 100% resistance. If any of the devs actually somehow manage to see this, then yeah, you should do that. Another niche build that's pretty good with heavy armor is melee. You're going to be taking a lot more damage trying to make it work, so heavy armor is the logical conclusion in most cases, considering that you're going to be running up into enemies' faces. I'd personally recommend using something like the stun lance, the saber, the flag, which is basically just a better stun lance, but also not magical in any way. And the hammer is easily the best melee weapon in the game. I would once again recommend you take the warp pack or shield pack with your melee items, if not the directional shield, which is amazing against bile spewers in particular. Lastly, I want to bring up, like, if you're slower than your enemies in heavy armor, why not just make your enemies even slower? By the way, the heavy flamethrower should definitely slow down enemies when you're like directly blasting them, but that's just me. Some examples are stun grenades, gas grenades, which are personally kind of my favorite grenades, to be honest, because it's going to take out the small stuff and the bigger stuff is kind of just going to wander around and leave you alone and give you space. There's also the EMS mortar, the new gas mortar, which I really want to get my hands on, gas strike, gas dog, arc nades, urchant, EMS strike, turrets can also create a distraction for you, and so on and so forth. Really anything you can use to create space like the napalm barrage or gatling barrage is going to do pretty good, because you might be tankier, but that doesn't mean you can just let enemies hit you as much as they want. That's what we call bullying. But that's pretty much all you're going to need to know, besides just picking your fights wisely and positioning yourself in the best spot you can to funnel enemies and protect yourself. I got more videos in the works, so subscribe, because it has been way too close to 1,000 for so long now, and it is kind of driving me a little bit crazy. Okay, so please don't get me sent to an insane asylum, so subscribe please, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.